Goldston,
Here.
Mary Hanson.
Here.
Ava J.
Here.
Margaret Maynard.
Here.
Vicki is absent, and John is absent. Jim is here.
Wasn't that timing? My pen ran out of ink on my last, my last day.
Yeah, they're 3-year pens.
Must be, 3 years to the day.
So we have minutes. Did people review the minutes already?
Yep.
And is there any discussion of the minutes or need for amendments?
Well, good.
Do we have a motion?
I'll motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Second.
We're gonna vote for the minutes. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Do we have public comments not related to the agenda? Okay, I guess not. I don't think that we have any communications. On to general business.
Yeah, so some of you may be aware, but there's been some discussion about the wheelchair swing that's located in Hemlock Park. After we've done an extensive amount of new amenities being added to the park facility, it was identified that the wheelchair swing that is there as it sits is not utilized in the purpose that it was put in for. And so looking further at the structure itself, it was determined by myself that it was not a safe facility, nor was it being used for its purpose. And knowing that we had put in an all-inclusive playground and further amenities, focusing inclusion for the implementation of the playground, the splash pad, and the kayak launch, I decided that we needed to look at that and should it be removed. And so the decision was made that yes, it should be removed. And furthermore, I reached out to the Bowman family, well, specifically Travis, and informed him that, appreciated the donation, but moving forward, it's not in good standing, it's rusting, it's it is a hazard. And he was in disagreement and disappointment, but I offered to him that when we remove the structure, we would put it in another location should somebody else find use for it. I've yet to have heard if anybody else wants it at this date. Still open to that. I then reached out to our risk assessment through MML. That correspondence is in your packet. And they were in agreement that it is a hazard and it needs to be removed because because it was not manufactured by a company that had engineered drawings. Now that it's been called out as a liability, the city is required to remove the structure. As of today, I received further communications from the city manager that an individual reached out to him interested in working with the city along with Sarah Bowman to apply for grants and have the structure repaired. I haven't had the opportunity to talk to that person, willing to work with them with the understanding that it would have to be an engineered facility per the requirements of MML. So that's where we're at today. And I'm sure that's why these people came to talk about it, and happy to have you come up to the podium and make comments or what have you, but that's where we sit at this moment.
Does the public have comments? Go ahead.
Would you come up here?
Hi, my name's Patty Frazier, and I live at 522 Bailey. my husband and I are here to advocate for the wheelchair swing. Not knowing all that she just provided about the insurance problems and the, so I have something just to, as a parent that had a special child and used that swing all the time, enough that she thought it was her own. But, so I've got it prepared, so I'm just gonna go run it through this, and then we can talk about what the proposal that she just had said about the grants. That would be, we would really like to look into that, okay. The swing was designed, built, and generously donated by a community member. It's more than just a piece of equipment. It's a rare and valuable space for joy, inclusion, and therapy. As a parent of a daughter who used a wheelchair, we experienced firsthand how much she loved that swing. For her, it just wasn't fun, it was therapy. Studies show that swinging can release endorphins and bring calming effect that last up to 8 hours, something no wheelchair can offer on its own. And I know that statistics because my daughter is an occupational therapist, came right from her. We recently visited the swing. It didn't look broken to us, but it does need care. The wood railings are worn and need replacing. The ramp has alignment and chain issues, and obviously all these other things that landscaping has always been horrendous over there. We thought none of these are insurmountable. With some of the modest repair and design updates, the swing can safely serve families again. We're not asking the city to bear this burden alone. Our families and friends would like to donate 2 benches near the swing in memory of our daughter. Right now, there are no seating for caregivers or family members nearby. Something as simple as a bench makes a difference. Finally, the claim that the swing isn't used is simply not true. We even met a caregiver at the park who told us that she uses the swing regularly and no idea that the removal idea was even being considered. We asked the city not to remove the swing, but instead allow the time for the community to come together, explore funding and design options, and preserve this unique and meaningful space. The swing is one of the only accessible recreation experiences available to some residents. It may seem small, but to those who use it, it means the world. And I would thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have other public comment?
Thank you. My name is Brenda Hall. I live in Paris, and my daughter was Kara Hall. She passed away November of 23, and she had many disabilities and was legally blind, and she thoroughly enjoyed using the swing. Didn't know what was just presented here about the issues of the swing, but Kara enjoyed the swing very much. It was the only form of inclusion for her down at the park, and never being able as a child to swing in a typical swing, this provided her some enjoyment. And I just want to say, if it needs to be replaced totally, please do that. Kids need to have inclusion into this park that are not of the normal, and even the aged population. We're all reaching that, and that can provide that for the elderly as well. My question is, if other things in the park, if this is an issue of vandalization, if other things in the park get vandalized, do you just yank it out and say, oh, well, we're done with it? Or do you look at replacing those things as well? I hope you do, and you probably do. I think this is a piece of equipment moving forward that should be preserved. If it is vandalization, maybe it's not in the right place. Maybe it should be brought to a better location where it can be more visual more eyes. Maybe not totally looking at the river, but maybe in a better location where others can see this piece of equipment and know that it's there. And for my daughter, if she would still be alive today with the splash pad there, seeing other kids enjoying their day, that would bring, laughter and fun for her. So maybe it's also looking at a better position of where the swing should be located. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Please, if there's more public comment. Anyone else?
I was gonna comment on that. I just wanna say I really appreciate you guys coming today and coming forward with this issue. I too have a child in a wheelchair. My son was paralyzed in August due to a motorcycle accident, so I look at the world now through accessibility and inclusion, with inclusion eyes, just like you've had to. So we do see things that you don't see when you're not living in that world. So I really appreciate you coming forward with this. I'm also a certified playground safety inspector, and so I totally agree with the safety aspect of this. So I think there's got to be somewhere where we can meet and find a solution for this. So I really appreciate you coming and voicing your opinion on this.
It also made me think of, like, are there other options that we can think of to offer, and provide for those that are handicapped? I think that'd be something really neat to explore for the park. And yes, maybe moving it, having a different area for it, but I'm like, no, it can't go now that, I just heard about this a few days ago, so, yeah.
Well, it definitely needs work,
Yep.
If anybody that's been down there can see that.
I feel like any swing that's been anywhere for more than a couple of years, almost always, like regular swings, you look at them and you're like, oh man, like, how does a swing get to be uneven? Like, it's chain. Like, why is that swing 4 feet off the ground? So I do think there's always maintenance, no matter what kind of swing.
Heather, how old is the swing?
I believe it's over 10 years old, but I couldn't tell you the exact age.
It's not that old. Or maybe it was built in 17, maybe 18.
Really?
Really isn't.
Like I said, I don't know the exact age, but
Make it 8 years.
Heather, can you speak to the, like wheelchair options on the new play equipment that we have? Like, I believe that it's supposed to be that they're able to get up onto the platform. Is there anything else, like?
yes, the whole facility was designed to be wheelchair accessible. So we had a committee of people that were a part of the discussion when we were designing the playground itself. Everyone that was on the committee had general interest in terms of what kind of inclusive recreation they'd like to see be incorporated in there. So, for example, outside of the wheelchair discussion, you have the little node that is in the back of the play area nearby the swing sets. That's to allow for individuals that have sensory needs and they have a place to be comforted and just get away from all the excitement. So each piece has its own purpose, and we took that into consideration for quite some time. There was even, I believe, a Facebook survey that the committee put out there on the Hemlock Park improvement. I forget the whole name of it, but it's on their Facebook page, and we took that information, came back as a committee, and then were able to make some further changes so that we could adopt whatever one voice that they like to see have happen.
Yeah, I do remember some of that. I just couldn't remember exactly how many amenities the new equipment had for people in wheelchairs or otherwise. not able?
I couldn't tell you the exact number of them, but that was definitely something that was discussed.
Go
I
ahead.
have a question on your committee.
Yes.
Was there any occupational therapist or the people that had a child in a wheelchair or a person in a wheelchair? Were any of those included? Because as Mary said, your eyes get open real fast, because our daughter was because of an accident too. One day you're okay, and the next day you're finding yourself in a different world.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are the
Yeah.
questions that need to be like an OT versus a PT.
Sure.
Be talked about like that.
Yeah. So I'm not sure if you know them personally, but the Fuller family, Mrs. Fuller, was a part of that committee.
That helps a lot.
And as I recall, because I don't have the greatest memory, but when we did the Facebook poll, I think there was a question specific about, do you have a child who's like special needs? What needs does that child need? So I think that we specifically were asking not just the public, like, do you support this? But, and like I said, it was a while ago.
Yeah. I don't remember
have the
every
greatest
question that was on
memory,
there.
But I remember something along
On
those lines.
Facebook, sort of.
Oh, sure.
We weren't just polling the average citizen, we were specifically polling people that had experience and needs beyond the standard.
And to answer your guys' questions about vandalism, so as you're aware, when it first was installed, it unfortunately was vandalized. So we installed a camera system. There's multiple cameras throughout the city. Hemlock Park specifically has the most number of cameras. And we put one after that vandalism specifically on site to the wheelchair. Now, we have the capability of looking back approximately a month back from when we decide the day of to look at the camera system, of which last week I did that with IT. And unfortunately, there was a few weeks where there was some communication issues, but starting from April 11th, moving on to last week, we looked at the camera system and there were approximately 12 to 15 users. I didn't exactly keep the exact number of users, of which none of them were on a wheelchair. There were typically children playing on it, using it as a surfboard, thinking it was a fun little thing to play on. And unfortunately, a lot of them had parents with them that allowed them to use it in that manner.
What I didn't read when I was reading like different things that I thought, I did skip over with when it was vandalized and they had to put those side things on. Well, after that, to put on the wheelchair, and maybe Brenda remembers this, you put your wheelchair on and then you had to go and put brakes, put your brakes on the child, on the wheelchair itself. Well, you had to lean over. Depends on what kind of wheelchair you have, because everybody's got different brake systems. Our caregivers would have to take a pole and then lean over and push it down on the brake. So if you had an older person or somebody that's not agile, they wouldn't be able to use it anymore. We didn't know that until just a little while ago, because our daughter passed 5 years ago, so we haven't been up there to play with it.
Sure.
So maybe that could, people stop using it for that reason, because they couldn't use it. Just because I'm just saying
Sure.
about what you're saying.
Yeah, there could be a number of reasons why people decided to not use it, but likewise, I said that just today we had somebody reach out, and so I'll be in communications with that individual to see what it is that they would like to have happen. But furthermore, the city, when it is notified by the insurance firm that there's a hazard, we're liable to have to take care of that liability. But I totally hear what you're saying, and you want to see something go in, and I'm all about it, and so is the city manager, and I'm sure the commission. So we'll do our due diligence in working with whomever.
If we went with an engineered company, they're specifically for that, they would have those, items in mind when they're designing, wouldn't they?
So the way that it works is similar to the playground that you see right now. It would have already been engineered and designed, and then they give you a catalog, and then you can select what item works best with how you want to see the play elements be adopted. So that would be the starting point, is to be with a recreational playground facility manufacturer and go from there.
Sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Jack Fraser. We're talking about my daughter Trudy here partially. Okay. Okay. I'm a former employee, so I know how to take orders from Heather. Anyways, yesterday we went out and looked at the current playground. The day before we went up to Cadillac and looked at their swing and their playground system. And they have, they got more money than we do, let's be honest. But the situation with our swing right now is when it was originally redesigned after the vandalism. It wasn't designed very well, honestly. I mean, just some minor adjustments would make that swing safer for both the person in the chair and their caregiver. Now, the vandalism, I remember why it was, everything else, and it was an attempt to correct a bad situation. Some revision to this swing right now will bring it into compliance with insurance companies. I'm sorry, I don't respect them at all. But because they don't look at it from the caregiver side. They don't look at it from the patient side. They're looking at liabilities, et cetera, et cetera. We can revise this swing. I was down there looking at it, it's solid. Okay, a couple little things. Let's get rid of the leaf pit under the chair. That's a maintenance issue. Let's clean out the little peg, because right now if you drop the wheelchair ramp, it doesn't go all the way down. Why? Because there's dirt in the hole. It's a simple thing. It's maintenance. Painting? Okay, it's pretty well scratched up. We know the kids are going to play on it. They were doing it in Cadillac. Kids are kids. Parents aren't sensitive to this. And as some of us know, awareness. I didn't even know we had cameras down there. And I was working for the city for 30 years. Okay? And that's the type of communication that we don't have that makes that swing valuable. Now that swing, for those kids that get on it, those young adults, the adults that get on it, it's such an impression on them. Okay, maybe there aren't 10 of them, but as I looked at the park yesterday, there wasn't anybody on the other swings either. That brand new playground, that's not wheelchair friendly, not in any sense of the word. You have to pick your kid up to put them in the special swings. Okay, that's movement. That's not a kid in a chair or an adult, a young adult, special needs adult. I've lived in this world for over 30 years. And these children, these people need to be recognized. They're a very small minority of our community, I'll grant you that. But they deserve the attention of our dollars, of our caring. Big Rapids is known as a caring community. Why aren't we doing that now? I would ask that you postpone this. I would love to work with Heather again, but to come to a better resolution on this situation, because there is community interest, and this is a small part of it, trust me. But there are people with money and interest in this situation to correct this situation. And as far as communications of the community, who knows the swings down there? In these days, I mean, the Pioneer, I'm sorry, but that newspaper is kind of defunct in my book. And you said Facebook, there was a survey. I never saw it. And I'm on Facebook all the time. I'm addicted, I admit it. But you have to get the word out. Sensitivity training. I'd love to put Heather and the crew through it. And they're good friends of mine, some of them. So, but it's an awareness factor. That swing people need to be aware that it's there. Yes, there's going to be vandalism. In Cadillac, I saw 10 kids on it. Their parents were down the line. I pulled my phone up. They saw one little girl goes, well, I'd never take their picture to start with because that's a whole other field. But the kids all scattered. But it's an attractive nuisance. I think, isn't that the word? Something like that?
I would say it's a hazard at this point.
Yeah, and honestly, I agree with her. It is a hazard the way it sits there with that fence. You can't take care of the person. Anybody trying to get near it is going to be in danger. Let's take the fence down. Okay, if they get behind it, why is there just this much space? Why isn't there a whole bunch of space behind it? Anybody that's working on that, the stops on it, I've looked at the stops. That structure is solid. Needs a little paint? Okay, but that's maintenance. You have to maintain anything mechanical to make it work properly. And in this case, we're talking about accessibility for special needs people. A little redesign, a little refiguring. I mean, we just spent thousands of dollars on a train depot. Why aren't we putting a little bit of that money into our park system and into special needs? That new park, it's beautiful. A lot of kids are gonna have a lot of fun on it, but it's not wheelchair accessible, I'll tell you that right now. Not for the patients. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on Jack's comment, and I'm sure Mary would agree, the wooden fence that is there, the reason why it was installed is because, again, while the Bowman family had good intentions, they were not engineers for playground equipment. And after it was installed, it was identified that there was a crush point. And so that's why the fence went up. So even if you removed that fence with the intent to have a different layout and have it expanded, at which point, again, it should just be fully removed and engineered and manufactured the appropriate way if one is going to go in there.
I love the idea the companion benches is what they're called now, and in the grant writing process, that's kind of all part of it now. A grant that I was a part of in my past job, we had to have companion benches along with everything we did. And that was long before my son's accident, and I had never thought about that. So I appreciate the companion bench idea.
I agree.
And if we did something new, we'd probably have to have that anyway, so it's awesome.
Dude, I think that we're gonna have like more discussion about it, but I just wanna give the public as much chance to comment before we kind of have a broader discussion. Are there any other comments from the public? So it sounds to me like we have three options, right? We can get rid of the swing and not replace it. We can try to amend the swing to improve it and bring it up to compliance, or we can replace the swing.
You have two options, one, remove, or two, replace.
You don't think there's any way that we can make it compliant?
And not unless they have an engineer that specializes in playground
I mean,
equipment.
in theory,
In theory,
that
sure.
could happen,
But
right?
that's an unpractical
Yeah.
theory.
I mean,
at
I'm
this
just like,
point.
you know, you never know. There's somebody out there and they wanna spend a ton of money and their nephew
Sure.
from Tennessee does this work and somebody else is, I mean, whatever.
No.
Like, if there's like deep sentimental attachment to this structure that like, it could be repurposed and be safe without being a swinging structure, like that could possibly, you know, be part of that kind of amend option, maybe.
That's where I relied on the Bowman family to give me some direction as to if somebody else could use it or repurpose it, but I hadn't heard any further discussion about that.
Do we wanna have any like side discussion on like the use of swings like this by like other kids?
You're never gonna stop that unless you put a padlock on it.
Yeah. My thinking is kind of that there's only two potential problems there. One, that like the current swing, if it's not safe, that like their hand could get broken,
Exactly.
right? Or something else like, oh gosh, that would be really tragic, right? And two, that they don't vacate if someone that can only use that swing
Right.
wanted to use it, right? Like, I mean, I don't know that it's something that I would scold my child for necessarily, unless, you know, one of those two situations. But I'm interested to hear if there's other comments. I always like to be enlightened.
My kids aren't allowed on it.
You like tell them it's like
They've never
disrespectful.
been allowed on it.
No, my grandkids never go on it.
Yeah.
You just tell
There's a
them.
playground for
Yeah.
them to play on.
No, I mean I get it. Like do they
But,
ask?
Yeah, they probably are curious, but
Yeah.
you know, other kids I'm sure are more curious. Older kids, mine are still pretty young.
Yeah.
Can we throw, you wanna throw something?
Well, the one about Cadillac? We were at Cadillac.
Do you mind coming to the podium?
When we were at Cadillac, in fact, I've got a picture on the phone, and I was just imagining to take the swing that's there, because it has the arch over it, and because of that, the fence is so close. Well, in Cadillac, you've got this, here's the wheelchair swing, and that fence is way over there. I mean, it's probably, it had to be 8-9 feet away from there. And so it's this big circle on either side that there couldn't have been anybody hurting anything. And it was just swinging on its own. I know, well, of course you had to push it, but then you could get to into the person and all that. It was, we just thought it was a better design to start with. And I know Travis did that one too. So, because already that, we've got all that metal already there, why couldn't we reuse it or keep it and then just put the other, but again, to go over, to look at, so we could, on that third one, third idea, is that she's discounting is to, I don't know, we could redesign it. So I think that's one of the things, if you guys can keep all.
Would the public care to weigh in? Would they like much prefer a redesign to a replacement?
Well, it probably comes down to cost. I mean, we put money in all kinds of parks around here. I know, I'm a taxpayer, and we have more parks per capita than most cities. Check it out. So I would like that to be, and especially for the people that cannot get that therapy, sensation that other people can get. That's really the important stuff. Is until we knew that when we put our daughter on, she was not happy that first day. We're trying something new, and she was legally blind also when she couldn't speak, but she could tell us, okay, I'm not happy about this, and then she got on there, and I swear it was within 5 or 7 minutes, she went to, oh, I love this. Like somebody's giving her a massage or something. And then sometimes she would even fall asleep. But literally, you have a swing, if you have a swing on your porches, how people do, try it 15 minutes a day, and that therapy will help you for anywhere from 48 hours. And that's just, everybody in life should be doing that. So, and this is one of those things that we can help those people do. And so, thank you again.
So I'd say our probably best option then is applying for a grant, because to fix it, find a specialist to fix it, redesign it, the price of that, right?
It's probably greater.
Well, and then you get the insurance issue that bites everybody.
Well, and with the new one, you're gonna get a manufactured product that comes with safety. And that's really your first concern. Our first concern is the safety. Where the refurb, you may have some issues there. I'd be a little skeptical of the rehab.
I think my biggest skepticism of the trying to amend it would be that we're not gonna get it to compliance with
That's right.
the insurance, and it's like, okay,
Right.
it might be safer, but do we spend a lot of energy and time and money trying to fix something that ultimately there could be design flaws that you end up dismantling it so far to get it to compliance with, and it's not whether or not I hear what you're saying about insurance, and I don't know anybody that's like, golly, I love insurance people. But, when it's not your backyard, when it's the city, and the city has to have an insurance policy, the choice ultimately often becomes, as far as I can tell, do you want a swing that the insurance company lets you have, or do you want nothing? And we're a board, we only have recommendation power to the commission to make a decision on things, and they're ultimately going to do the same thing we're doing, is what's within our means, what can we do legally, what are we held to by the law, right? Like I said, when it's your own backyard, it's like, well, it might not be fully legal, but the police probably aren't gonna come and check to see whether or not you have a hazard in your backyard, at least not most of the time. You hope.
Heather, have we looked into what a replacement system would cost?
No, I haven't had the opportunity
Okay.
to get in that far deep.
Are we supposed to do any, other than our discussion, your recommendations today, or is this just the
Information.
ball rolling and talking?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much farther the conversation goes. I'm just looking for some recommendation in terms of what it sounds like going down the road of those three options, and whatever is covered by insurance and is the safest route is what I'm hearing that you'd be in support of, after I have communication with this individual that reached out to the city manager and see how viable it is and practical it is for them to be a part of doing a fundraising effort or looking for grants. I mean, I'm happy to work with whomever. Obviously, it's in the park prior to all of these kinds of conversations happening. So it's not like we're trying to get rid of it because we don't appreciate it. It's just once, as a municipality, if you identify that there's a liability and somebody gets hurt, then you put yourself at risk of major insurance costs. And it's different if you're walking on the sidewalk and somebody trips because we didn't know there was a trip hazard. Then you go and fix it. We know that there's a hazard. It needs to be addressed.
So it needs to be removed.
And replaced.
Unless somebody can rehab
Efforts
it.
need to then go towards.
So if your recommendation is to address the liability and move forward with seeing if there's an opportunity to do replacement, I'm happy to do that.
I think we should definitely explore it.
Yeah.
You know, what a replacement would cost.
Sure.
And just see just start to weigh what our options are.
I think I was here on this board when that swing was built. And if I recall, a lot of its engineering was a local welder, which is fine and everything, but we don't use a guy to, because he can weld, build a space shuttle, okay? And when I went down and looked at this swing, holy moly, were there crush points where you could get a hand through there, a foot through there, and boy, it was a liability waiting to happen. However, I would be remiss in our board not looking into what a nice new engineered swing for people in wheelchairs.
Public comment?
I just had a question. So when the splash pad and the new playground, the old playscape was taken out and the new playground equipment was put in, was the thought that that piece of handicap equipment, the swing, is sufficient for meeting ADA, a piece of equipment for people with disabilities? And that's okay, we're good? Because to my knowledge, not having a daughter to take down there anymore, I haven't been down there. There's no other equipment that was installed for inclusion, correct? For kids.
I'm not understanding the question.
Well, is there any adaptive equipment put in for kids of special needs to use?
There's a kayak
Just the swing.
rack.
So,
The structure itself is accessible by wheelchair for children.
right, is there any other play equipment down there that's
The
for,
splash pad, they can utilize that.
okay, but I mean like of swings and other,
You mean staying in the wheelchair?
right.
No,
Any other
there
thing?
is no other swing like that, correct.
So when that whole park was looked at that time, they must have thought, oh, that's sufficient to use, that's in compliance.
We, honestly, that never was even a component that we talked about. We were focused on
That's
the
interesting.
playground structure.
That's interesting.
I think that I can.
That wasn't even viewed to look to see if that was up to
That wasn't the
compliance.
project of the
Oh.
committee, though.
I'll just, I think that some context might be helpful. The Hemlock Park project started, with one person who was thinking, we need some new tennis courts. While we're at it, there's a lot of people that are interested in pickleball. Can we see an upgrade? And then people were like, yeah, I want to get behind that. You know what else would be great would be a splash pad. And so things kind of kept getting added to the project, mostly because people came forward and were like, we would like to see this get added. Now, the playground component was not actually part of that until almost all the way at the end, where it came to light that, you know what, actually, as cool as the playscape is, it's outlived its lifespan by like 10 years. Other facilities that were built at the same time did not last more than 10 years. It was about 10 to 15 years, as I recall, was the expected lifespan of a wooden structure like that. Beyond that, I mean, it had other problems like adults could hide as homeless people in that equipment. And so it was like, there were lots of problems with it, right? So we had to replace that, and that became, what are we gonna replace it with? Let's replace it with equipment that is the most, ADA accessible that's available to us within our budget, right? Like, we wanna spend as much as we possibly can. I know I had a lot of discussion about, I wanted to make sure that we didn't replace the existing structure with something that was smaller, right? If 100 kids could use the old play equipment, I want at least 100 kids to be able to use the new play equipment, like, even if it costs us twice as much money, right? Because like you said, we put in all this money into a splash pad, it would be a travesty to not put that money, similar money into the play equipment that we replaced the playscape with. All that said, the wheelchair swing did not come up, right? Because it wasn't looked at as part of the old playscape equipment, right? As like, it's in its own area. And was it an oversight? Perhaps, but I think that like we're addressing it now, and I'll be honest, the Hemlock Park project has taken a long time.
It could have been new when the project started.
Yeah, I mean, that's how long
You know
it's
what I
been.
mean? Like when the talks of like getting the playground.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not new, but
fresh on the
newer.
board
Yeah.
myself, a few
So-
years, so.
I think there's a very good chance that we might go some years without a wheelchair swing. Because by the time we get a grant, by the time the equipment gets ordered, by the time it goes out to bid to have a professional install it, it takes forever. But hopefully we end up with something that lasts for generations. You know, like I know that the old playscape structure, like I said, it had a lifespan of like 10-ish years. Thanks to good care from the city, it lasted way over double that. When we replaced it with metal structure that has a lifespan of like 30+ years. So it's like we didn't just like, you know, chuck money at it, not thinking about how long it's gonna last. It's supposed to last a really long time. So I'd hope that we could replace the wheelchair swing with something that will be just as long. Go ahead.
I would like to think Big Rapids community is inclusive, meaning handicapped persons. There should be something for handicapped people. And when my husband and I went down and looked at it today, and my first thought was, oh, this is gorgeous here. They don't want this here. What's gonna go here next? When the wheelchair swing is gone, what's gonna go there? Any idea?
No,
I'll bet there's something.
no.
No.
Not that I've heard of. I'm
This
not
is
gonna
simply
say it.
just addressing a hazard at this point. There's no plans.
Well, that was my thought. It's this god-awful thing, and everything else here is so beautiful. But there's no wheelchair swing for handicapped people, and there should be. If there's money for that beautiful, gonna last 30 years thing, there should be a swing for handicapped people.
I was actually thinking, are there other play equipment beyond swings that people in wheelchairs want? Maybe even more than a swing? We went to Cadillac, was there only a swing for wheelchair, there wasn't anything else?
They had the same idea that, you know, a child could, or in this case, a child would get rolled up into one of the little, you know, like a boat or whatever, like,
Yeah.
whatever we call that thing. That's about all they had too, and they had the special swings, but you had to put your child in that swing. And, pick them up and put them in, just like you have. But that was about
it.
it, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know, I feel like there's some kind of like teeter-totter type thing, or like there's probably something else.
ISD would be a good place to look
Yeah.
at their playground equipment.
Yeah,
But it's not just for children though, it's for
Yeah.
the adults, because you're gonna be just like that, you know? You're gonna be in a chair someday and you're gonna want that, just say, how come I didn't build that?
I mean, I have BPPV, which if you might know, you get vertigo really easily, so actually swinging like makes me really dizzy.
Oh.
So I personally will not want to ever swing, but that doesn't mean that I wanna keep other people from swinging. Go ahead.
Do you mind coming to the podium?
I'm Kathy Johnson, and I live next door to Patty and Jack, and that's why we're here, okay? And I used the power of Google and just looked up so that anybody can have an idea here. A single ADA accessible swing set and/or platform, $3,250. Freedom Glider ADA accessible swing set, 2 platforms, will get $24,646, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So whoever this generous person is that's going to contact Heather or the city manager, right? At least they have the same power that I just had to look up and see what's it gonna cost. Because the particular item that we're speaking of, it's probably not rehabilitatable, right?
That would be my opinion.
And is deemed a hazard by the city, but its replacement is right there, all right? And Rosemary, God bless you, is right. Big Rapids is an inclusive community, and a society is judged by how it takes care of those that are least able to take care of themselves. That's all.
One more thing, but this is more procedural. What I understand and what I'm hearing right now is that we have a 3-option question. And one of those options is to take the swing out. The other option is to see what the options are. How would you proceed with that search? And then the final one is a total replacement. Okay, but the middle one, in my mind, is the key one. To see what's there, to see what the options are, to see whether it is rehabable or not. If it's a danger, okay, the insurance companies, I already stated my opinion of them. But to look at the options and then to go forward from that, bring that information back to you folks. And then make that decision from there. Are we gonna replace it? Are we gonna rehab it? Are we gonna buy a new swing? Where is the community involved in that? Where are we involved in that? Is this something that needs to be considered? And that's all I'm asking.
So I can answer that question. The way that I would envision that process to take place, Jack, is that I would move off of their recommendation. I would be in contact with the insurance company to determine when it would have to be addressed. And then furthermore, I would have an opportunity to talk with the manufacturer that we used for the current playground facility that was just recently installed, because I would use them as the experts, being that they would have all the contacts in terms of if there are pieces that can be used to rehab, and if they have different options that are available for replacement, then that would then go forward to the board to give me guidance as to how to proceed.
Can you speak to, as I recall, like there's a number of different, there's not that many manufacturers of play equipment in the country. Please correct me. And it like there's only so, and then of those play equipment manufacturers, there's a number that sell them in the state of Michigan or like the region. So it's like there aren't like lots and lots of different people for you to go to.
Correct.
Like we're pretty kind of pigeonholed into there's company A, which is really good, company B, which is like okay but cheaper, company C that's like, well, if you're on a budget, like you can get some swings from them kind of situation. Is that accurate?
Yes, I mean, that's accurate for pretty much anything that you purchase. So I would tend to go with the company that we worked with, since we had a good relationship with them. They're familiar with our equipment and familiar with the area, understand our needs.
And available locally. Like,
Right, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, there's equipment that has been I don't want to say destroyed, but is starting to show that it needs tweaks. So the manufacturer will be on site tomorrow, and we have new pieces of equipment ordered, being that they're under warranty. It's just because it's being well loved.
Yeah.
And Heather, if you do get into the grant writing process for some of this, we'd be glad to provide letters of recommendation too.
Nice.
So, do we have more discussion on this?
I just think that I think some needs to be still there, honestly. Whereas a society right now, it's a shame what we're doing. So I agree with these people here. We need to have something like this. So whatever it takes to see what the next step is. I walk by it most every day when I walk in the morning. And when I first walked down that park 3 years ago, I was really taken back. This is the first time I'd seen a wheelchair swing. And I thought at that time that was a great idea. So, obviously I don't see people because I walk first thing in the morning, so there's not people out there using it at that time. But I still think it's something we need to have.
So, I'm going to try to put together a motion, and please amend it as needed or vote against it. But I would move that we leave the existing swing in place as long as the insurance company allows it. adding maybe a use at your own risk sign if it helps with the liability, and maybe a sign stating that we were planning on replacing it. And that with the intention of replacing it and potentially adding either more swings or added variation of equipment that was specifically wheelchair accessible. If there's like I said, if there's something other than a swing, if we can get a swing and some other thing that a wheelchair can get on that spins or bobs, or just that they can move on their own in some way.
Or is there something, you know, like a tire swing? How you can go all directions? Like, does that swing just goes forward, back? Like, it'd be cool to maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
Have
so,
to see what's available.
yeah, so
Spinning.
Yeah, there's merry-go-rounds, they're flat.
Yeah, I'm
to the
thinking
ground and you
merry-go-round
roll
type
on.
of
that kind of thing, yeah. So to leave it in place for as long as we can, and that we recommend that Heather and the commission look into broad replacement.
Is it safe to leave it right now, Heather?
What
She's
do
gonna
you
say
think,
no.
Mary?
Yeah, cause I'm not getting behind this,
I don't think it's safe to leave out there. That's why I brought it to everyone's
Yeah.
attention.
I mean, I'm only saying like, leave it as long as the insurance will let us have it.
Did you read the letter from the insurance company in your
It
file?
sounded
Yeah.
like they were like, you gotta move it. But
Yeah, if
So you
it's all not safe, I
you
can
can
it.
just pull it now.
Yep.
Pull it as soon
We
as
don't want
possible.
anyone getting
Yeah, we
hurt
don't want
or
anybody
injured.
getting hurt, most importantly.
Yeah.
My thinking is just like try to walk that middle road of compromise of you want safety, but you also don't want safety so much to the extreme that like you have this gap where anyone in a wheelchair, it's like, well, that's it, nothing for 5 years because it's gonna take 5 years to get a replacement and we pulled it, like,
All right.
but like maybe we could get another month out of it, like, I don't know. Like I said, I always try to walk that compromise. And maybe.
It's one thing to have compromise, Ferris and Foster, Ferris. Sorry, but I have a responsibility to make sure that individuals outside of the scope of who it was designed to use it for that sole purpose, if they get injured, we have a problem.
Yeah.
Regardless if they were not supposed to be using it, it's a play structure, it's not safe. It's been deemed not safe by myself. I used to have the same certification that Mary has. She's saying the same thing. I hear that it's a hazard, and the insurance company is saying it's a hazard. Publicly noting that that is a hazard, I have a responsibility to have it removed. Now, that being said, that doesn't mean that I don't have a little bit of time to talk to the company tomorrow to see if there's any kind of options. If there were, then I could go ahead and rope off the facility and close it so it can't be used so that we are held safe. But to be completely honest with you, if they tell me that that's not an option tomorrow, I'm gonna have to come up with ways to figure out to remove the structure and moving forward the recommendation to seek having a replacement be put in place. I can't put the liability on the city.
Yeah, okay. So we want a motion that says, try to find out what, possibility there is of fixing it, and also
Replacement
at the
cost.
same time pursue replacement.
Sure.
I just feel like this it wouldn't be a multi-million-dollar project, right?
I can't imagine,
Bringing
no.
up prices, like, I feel like the funding and things like that could come together pretty quickly. I don't know that process, but it may happen quicker because it, is
I mean-
such a.
So that's involved.
It is.
Project.
But where would you want it to be and that
It's-
planning of the park?
gotta go
Yeah,
out
that
to
would all
bid.
come to the park board.
It's
I
gotta
mean,
go out to
that's
bid,
not
you
my
have to get
decision.
somebody to like bid on it.
Installation and.
And you'd think that that would be like no problem, but like, I mean, with the Hemlock Park projects, like it went out to bid multiple times
How many millions of dollars?
in pieces and as like a giant thing because people didn't wanna bid on the project. And it's like the, you know?
There's a lot involved in that
Yeah.
project.
Mm-hmm. But like I said, I mean, it went out to bid like as like just the kayak launch, just the splash pad. If some company just wanted to do one part, I mean, of course, it was also during COVID and like all these other extenuating circumstances. But like, you never know. Is all I'm saying. You just you can't be sure. Like there could be a shortage
true.
of parts.
Yeah.
Like you just can't predict how long it's going to take.
Yep.
You'd hope that it could be within a year, but would I be surprised if it was 3? No. So I think I sort of have a motion on the table. Do we want to vote? Do we want to clarify the motion?
Please clarify it for me.
I move that Heather reaches out to the play equipment company about updating the existing structure and simultaneously pursues its replacement and comes back to the board with options.
With the understanding that if the insurance company tells me I have to remove the hazard rather than close it, you're
Yeah.
on board with that. Okay.
Will you kind of put it in one whole?
Yeah.
I
It's a
have so much
complicated
here,
thing.
I just want.
I think we're all on the same page, so when we do the minutes tomorrow, Trina, we'll clean it up.
Thanks. Appreciate that. If I had all the time in the world at home with my computer, I'm sure I could clean it up also, but
We're good.
thank you.
So now she needs a motion. Or a second, sorry.
Second.
Margaret?
Margaret. Go ahead.
I have a question. When your car insurance goes up, you call around. Can I get a better deal? Do you only deal with one insurance company?
The city is represented by the Michigan Municipal League.
So that's
MML.
it. That's it.
Yes, and they handle all different divisions and aspects. This particular person, their role is to do risk assessment. As Jack said, we work together, and they come to the facilities and they do an inventory and they check everything.
But-
And you're required to do those changes.
To speak to your analogy, I think the more accurate analogy is when you get in a car accident, do you go and shop around for insurance? You already have insurance, don't you?
I do, but it
You
wouldn't.
can't get into an accident and then go get different insurance, right?
What's up,
So we
Mike?
have insurance, right? The city has insurance, and they're not gonna
Yeah, I
change the
understand.
insurance because something came up they didn't like what the insurance said, right?
But somebody else, some other insurance company might say, well, it'll cost you X, Y, and Z. I can fix it for this. I was just throwing it out there. I don't know how the city works, so there you go.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second, are we ready to vote on this? All in favor, say aye. Aye?
Aye.
All opposed?
Not that I'm opposed, it's just I'm kind of abstaining from it, because I understand the city's point about the insurance, I do. Unfortunately, that's the way our society is anymore. But I don't want this to be a forgotten idea. And that's why the way I feel this is being talked about now, I just kind of feel in a way it's gonna be kind of a forgotten idea. If that gets taken out, you know, as he said, it took how long? I've only been here for, on this board for a few months. How long it took to actually get Hemlock Park going to where it is now? When you decided to get rid of the playscape and stuff like that. I just really worried about it being forgotten.
That's where you have to trust that I'm going to do my job.
Right there.
I mean, I don't know that abstaining gets you there,
No, I know,
right?
I just can't.
I hear what you're saying,
Yeah,
but
I
I think
can't really
that,
say
like, the
yes.
insurance company is gonna force the removal, so we can put a motion on the table to try to, that's our best bet of keeping or at least replacing.
Replacing is fine. I just, like I said, I just feel like it's gonna be something forgotten. We have forgotten about
Well, I mean, if you abstain,
people with special needs in society forever. My daughter's a teacher, my wife was a speech pathologist, dealt with special need children all the time. And as a society, we seem to forget.
yeah, so I think that,
That's why I have.
As long as I'm on this board, it's not gonna get forgotten,
Yeah,
trust
like,
me.
there's no way
Great,
this
I'm
one's
glad-
getting
I'm glad-
forgotten
I'm glad
about.
that you're here. I just, we put a lot of money into that park, which has been beautiful. And I just feel that this is something that makes the park special too, to try to keep.
yeah,
In some
so,
way.
so putting more money into the park, right, is what's on the
Money-
table.
yes.
So a vote for, I'm just trying to clarify, a vote yes would be choosing not to forget and to put more money in, and a vote no
Yeah,
would be
but that wasn't the kind of,
opposed.
like I
Right.
said, I'm just worried about it being forgotten.
Okay,
And I mean, everybody else votes yes, I'm just stating my opinion on that.
yeah, of course. So we have yays, 2, is that what I counted? No,
I can't get behind fixing the old one.
Yeah,
I just can't.
yeah, I'm like, let's get the best,
Yeah, let's get
greatest one that you can get
safe
for
equipment.
them, like.
Safe, liability-free equipment with companion benches. How's
But
that?
aren't we voting about what the options are gonna be? I think we're just voting for what our options, to look at what our options could be.
yeah, I think we're voting to we're not taking that off the table entirely, right?
We're just voting on options,
Yeah,
unless I'm wrong. To get options.
yeah,
Foster, it may be helpful if you just have Trina call each person's name and have them state their vote, yes or no.
okay, let's do that.
Margaret?
Yes, if it's just for options.
That's not the motion. The motion is to give me guidance to either remove if told by the insurance company, replace if there is no other options. If there are options and the insurance company will allow me to close the facility rather than remove it, then I will do so. Those are the 3 options.
Yes.
Explained as you just did. Yes. I was definitely a no. That swing has to go. It's a liability. Operating
Next.
as it does right now, but we can't let
Oh, hang on,
this
let's finish the
die.
vote. Next.
Mary?
Yes.
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Abel?
This is explained.
Thank you.
Is a swing a liability?
I'm sorry?
A swing, is that a liability?
Yes, this is considered
So
a
a
playground
kid-
equipment. So there are standards to even just your standard swing with
So
a
if a
belt.
kid falls off a swing, it could sue the city.
Well, there's what's called fall zones, and so we have a requirement to have the surface be intact for that fall zone.
Guess it works.
You got swings down there with no fall zone, trust me.
Thank
Thank you, folks. And
Thank
if
you for
need
coming.
my
Thank you.
input,
Thank you.
I'm available.
Thank
And I will work for the new swing.
Okay.
If you go that route.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.
Thanks.
Okay, on to the next one, pool. I'm gonna let Josh lead that discussion, but I do wanna let you know that unfortunately, we just received communication that the RAP grant that we applied for, we were not selected. And that was that big park project to do the upgrades on the outside of the facility and Marsite and everything else like that. So we're gonna be looking at that again here in the near future. But he can give you information about the pool season.
Yep.
Pool season is going to begin June 9th. That will be registration and evening open swim. The week of June 16th, we will begin regular open swim hours with water aerobics in the evenings. And then June 23rd, swim lessons will start and will run for 5 weeks. I've actually been in communication with Beth Hay, who is interested in running a competitive swim camp. We're gonna do that after lessons are done, so anybody who took swim lessons that is looking to do something a little bit more after the fact, we're gonna run a 1-week camp for about 2 hours each day in the mornings before the open swim hours take place, so we can actually fill some more time used in that pool. We also have approximately 40 staff coming to the pool this year, roughly 20 checkers and aides, and 20 lifeguards. So we should be in good shape.
Good deal.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah, Josh is doing a really great job getting everything ready for the pool season to start up. North End Park, just wanted to give you an update on that. The restrooms are ready to be opened up to the public. The last thing that we're holding on to is a lab result for the water test samples that we are required to do through Eagle. So as soon as we get those back from the state of Michigan and we get the all clear, we'll be able to open that facility, and we'll utilize Steve Gove and his PR communication skills to notify the public that they're open and ready to be used. So that's a nice improvement.
Are we leaving the porta potties?
Not while that facility is open. We'll consider putting porta johns into the parks when we close the facilities, but that's guidance based off of the city manager and what he's comfortable with. Couple other things I just wanted to put on your radar. One, we've had internal discussions about park hours. And so per the ordinance, there is park hours listed, which are 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. is when the parks are open. There is a park policy that was adopted in 2015 that states that the park's hours are from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. So in communications with the city manager and the chief of police, we determined that it's more practical to change the park policy so that it reflects according to the park ordinance. So I'm asking for a motion to change the park policy to reflect what the ordinance states, which is from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m.
I'm just curious, can you tell us, like, what the purpose of park hours are?
For the police to effectively ensure that the facilities are not being used during times that are inappropriate, which have been deemed from after 10 p.m. up to 4:59 a.m. So if there is some sort of situation that occurs, that gives law enforcement a tool.
I see.
Do the lights go out at 10?
The ball field lights, they don't shut off at 10 because many times those that are using the facility in the fall specifically, they need time to get off of the field and then make their way safely to their vehicles. So we have a little bit of wiggle room there, but we work closely with the softball association, and they're given a grace where they're allowed to be there for a little bit longer.
The pavilions at North End?
Those are not lit. The parking lot is lit.
So if, like, there were kids playing basketball in the dark at 11 o'clock at night, like, they wouldn't get in trouble because it was past park hours?
Well, I mean,
per
that's
se?
a call by law enforcement, right? I mean, if they're being, facetious and vandalizing, that gives them a tool to.
Right, but if they were just playing basketball?
Yeah, I'm not going to speak for what an officer will do, but I'm pretty certain they're not going to be like, oh, they got to get off the basketball court. It's July 17th and it's 11 o'clock a.m. dusk, kind of, or 11 p.m.
Yeah. Thanks for that clarification.
Mhm.
Is there other discussion? Do we have a motion?
Now a motion. Can we change the
Park policy.
hours to reflect the ordinance?
Perfect.
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Awesome. Last thing I just want to add to you guys is to heads up. So you're aware the 24th of May is the ribbon cutting for Hemlock Park Splash Pad. I hope y'all can make it. And with that, we fired up the splash pad yesterday. We're able to look at the water loss that occurs when it's running a full cycle. And it's been acknowledged that other splash pads have operating hours. And so myself, along with staff, we're going to be monitoring what seems to be the most appropriate hours to have the splash pad active. We have a timer on it. So I'm going to start with having the activation begin approximately around 10 a.m. and then no longer be activated after 9 p.m. And then we'll monitor the water usage and make adjustments accordingly. Those hours are not intended to be posted at the park initially, as it's going to be something that we're going to monitor during this first season. And then once we determine the high peak hours and what seems most appropriate, then I'll bring it to you at the end of the season with that information, and we'll implement what we think is the appropriate hours to be posted for the splash pad.
What time is the ribbon cutting?
11 a.m.
Okay, thank you.
And that was it for updates for you.
Awesome. It doesn't look like we have any staff reports or committee reports or business. The only unscheduled business is the next meeting. Any other comments? Meeting adjourned.
Thank you for your time.